Hello and welcome to another edition of Feminine Scope with Tara. My name is Amanda Ezekwe and I'll be standing in for Tara. On the 18th of December 1979, the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. It entered into force as an international treaty on 3rd September 1981 after the 20th country had ratified it. Recent reports indicate that in hundreds of nations around the world, including Nigeria, the incidence of violence against women have assumed an alarming proportion, especially during this period of the pandemic. On today's edition of the program, we'll seek to highlight the impact of violence on the total well-being of the woman and how this can be curbed or brought to the barest minimum. Join me in the studio as we discuss the impact of violence on the total well-being of the woman. Stay with us. Welcome to the discussion segment of the program. With the outbreak of COVID-19, Nigeria and indeed the world has experienced a spike in violence against women in spite of the existence of the VAP law. It is this and more issues about the safety and well-being of women and girls that we'll be discussing today. Our guest today on the program is Nkechi Ebenebe, the founder of Nech Hope Initiative, a non-governmental organization reaching out to women and children in abusive relationships and helping them to find their voice. Madam, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
There has been a spike in domestic violence, especially during the pandemic. What do you think would have been the cause of this?
Thank you. The world actually changed in late 2019, 2020 with the pandemic, and everybody got affected. It affected homes. People lost their jobs because there was confusion. Nobody knew what this whole virus was all about. So the people that lost their jobs, there was no source of income. There was frustration. We had issues in the community, issues of domestic violence. It went so high. Lagos alone, in month of March 2020, recorded, in fact, almost 50% increase in domestic violence. Basically, there was lack of funds, confusion everywhere in the whole world. So for us, that was a singular fact that caused the spike of domestic violence during this pandemic.
But not just domestic violence, it's an all-encompassing thing. What
Absolutely.
were other incidences that had to do with this?
Sexual abuse was on the increase, the rape. In fact, sexual abuse, it was so on the increase. People got missing. Women were being raped on daily basis. There was incest in the community where we're handling, and so many societal vices were on the increase during this pandemic.
Now, how do we protect these people? That brings me to the VAP law.
Absolutely.
How did it come about?
The VAP law, Violence Against Persons Prohibition, in 2015, Goodluck Jonathan actually signed it into law. And what is the law about? The law is an act to remove violence, to eliminate violence from public and private life, to protect people, and for those found wanting, those offenders, to prosecute them. That's what the law was all about. So every other law that preceded that VAP law, became existent. They were not used anymore. But the issue with VAP law is that only out of 36 states, only 16 states in Nigeria has domesticated VAP law. And we are still asking why. Since 2015 to 2021, only 16 states in Nigeria has domesticated VAP law.
Why do you think it has not been enacted in other states?
Remember, we are in a patriarchal society where people have failed to understand that VAP law is a law protecting everybody. Violence against persons, not violence against women. It is not gender specific. But the issue we're having is that people have this mindset that it is violence against women. And there is this, You know, there's this notion, there is this vibe people get when it comes to women, that sentimental thing. Emotional. You know, so, and basically because of our culture, remember, most states that have not domesticated are basically from the north because of our culture of child bride, where rape or sexual abuse, incest, is seen as a family issue. We've had so many cases where rape has been established and is saying, let's sort it out, especially if it's in family thing. You know, leave it, can we sort it out in the family, without knowing that it is a criminal offense. So once we get hold of these cases, we tell them it is a criminal offense. It should not be sorted out in the community. But culture is still a limiting factor.
With all this?
With all this, culture is still a limiting factor. But we keep pushing. We keep pushing.
What are some of the consequences if found wanting?
The consequences is a jailable offense, but the issue is that the institution bodies that are supposed to drive these consequences, there are still lapses. There are still lapses, serious lapses, because we have had cases where we went to the police and the cases of you need to bring money for them to, you know, pursue the case, and you know, those back and forth. And because of the societal stigma, a lot of people don't like coming out to say, I've been raped, or there has been a rape, my child has been raped. So we tend to cover this thing up, except an institution goes in and brings it to the foreburner.
Now, bringing it to the front burner, do you think we have enough bodies like NGOs who are advocating for the enactment of this law?
Definitely, sure. We have enough. In fact, we have enough NGOs. But the thing is, if there is no support, from the police, from the bodies that we are supposed to get support from, I don't think any NGO can go far with it. But there are lots of NGOs who are already on this.
But it's like there is not enough awareness being created for this.
That is why I'm here. we are creating awareness. That is why I'm here. The awareness is out there. People actually know. But what we should be saying is the people that need to know, do they have televisions? Do they have the radios? That is why we go into the communities. We go to meet them, to tell them their rights. So many women don't even know their rights. I was speaking with some community women yesterday, and I said, you have the right to report if your husband beats you. And that was the first day that they heard, really. They saw it as a form of control. The man has, when he's beating me, he's controlling me, it's fine. You know, but creating this awareness, you must go to them. Because they don't have all the equipment, the gadgets, the television to watch, to see this. So that is why we go to the community to meet them, to let them know their rights.
We're still talking about domestic violence and the VAP law. We'll go on a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. We're still talking domestic violence and the VAP law. And we still have our guest in the studio, Nkechi Ebenebe. Nkechi, still talking about domestic violence and the VAP law. Now we find out that the VAP law is for everybody, but people think it's just for women once domestic violence is mentioned.
Yeah.
Do men go through domestic violence?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody goes through abuse, even children, not just men. Everybody goes through abuse. Yes. Men go through abuse.
Have there been incidences you've seen yourself working with the community-based women and children?
Yes, we have incidences, but the issue is that men do not report. That is why it seems the statistics of men to women is 70%, 15%. 70 women reporting and 15 men reporting. The problem is with the reporting, and it's culture thing. The societal construct of a man is not supposed to cry. You're a man, you brace up, you don't express emotions. So the men suffer through domestic violence, but they don't report. And we cannot work without reports.
But how are they encouraged to report?
Everybody, the encouragement is for everybody, really. It's for everybody. If there has been an abuse, you know where to go and report to. But like I mentioned, remember, a man is told you can't cry right from childhood. You're a boy, you can't cry. Why are you crying like a woman and all that? So he has learned over the years to suppress his emotions. Even when he's going through abuse, he can't come out and say he's going through abuse because of the thing of we are the stronger sex. Men are the weaker sex. Sorry, women are the weaker sex. So if a man comes out to say that he's been abused or he's going through domestic violence at home, people are going to laugh at him. You know, people are not going to validate his feelings and his emotions. So that is why the reporting from men is basically very few men come to report. But the law covers everybody.
Now, we've had cases of people being threatened because they reported cases like that. Yeah. How are these people protected?
That is where we have the issues. Like, there's a case we have in the community now. A 10-year-old boy was raped, and the case was reported. But the family of the rapist, because they have the money, there have been threats for the family of the victim to withdraw the case. And, you know, back and forth, and Nigerian factor, which you know, the family is asking for the case to be withdrawn. Now the victim's family. But we're saying, no, it is your right. You will be protected. But to what extent can we protect them in the community? That means they have to move away from that community. It has to be reported that there is threat to life, and police has to take over the case fully to protect their lives. And that is why people are not coming out to report, especially in the case of sexual abuse. People are not coming out to report. That is where we're having the issue of threats.
Is it because of the stigmatization?
Stigma, yes, stigma. Because of the society we have found ourselves where if I speak up, there is that culture of silence. Silence culture of if I even victim shaming. You know, the victim comes and says, I've been abused, I've been violated. And people turn it around to say, what were you wearing? What were you doing there by that time? But these things are no longer important. What we should stick to is there has been an abuse. And once we establish it, it should be pursued to the later.
Now, pursuing it to the later, has there ever been a conclusive case?
Of course, we have. Definitely, there are conclusive cases if followed appropriately. NAPTIP has been, people have been prosecuted, and there is offenders register, which NAPTIP has. So there has been conclusive cases that has gone to courts.
And,
sure.
And the victims have been,
of course,
you know,
got justice.
Okay, now, what are the fines, or are they bailable offenses when this happens?
No, they are not bailable offenses, but rather they are jailable offenses, and there are some fines attached to them.
Like
to the offenses.
In the range of
200,000. Sure, 200,000.
But you know, like what I have is what I know is that most of these things have not been, you know, created like awareness.
Yes, it still boils down to what I mentioned initially. Culture, the society we have found ourselves. There are lots of loopholes, loads of loopholes.
But is there a written handbook or something about VAP law that can be shared across boundaries where people can know what's and what?
The VAP law is documented, but the issue is that people you want to give it to they are not learned. So somebody will need to be on ground to interpret for them, basically, which is what I do in my community. So sharing it to them, what you're sharing, can they read? That's another thing, because they're not learned. So there must be somebody telling them. You need to tell them, you need to guide them, you need to lead them, you need to encourage them to come out and report. Most of these cases are not reported. they are not reported because women have this mindset that this is my fault. She's been beaten, she's been violated, so is my fault because of the silent culture that we have found ourselves in.
How would families protect their own when it comes to this? What advice can you give them?
Okay, families protecting their own.
Especially the children.
Absolutely. Is for you to know your rights and for you to protect your children. The how. Keep creating the awareness. Keep letting children know that your body is yours. No other person should touch it. Nobody has the right to your body. Nobody should violate it. Nobody should hit you. We should start early with this generation of children. Starting early to know that it is not allowed to hit anybody. Domestic violence is not allowed. Abuse is abuse, irrespective of who. He can be your husband. He can be whoever should not hit you. Because from childhood, if they are not told, they grow up, they marry, and there's this mindset of, he's my husband, so he has the right to hit me. Especially, these are the problems that we're having in the community, where women tell you that, now my husband, so therefore he can beat me. And we say, no, he's your husband, he should not beat you. Let's separate the two.
Now, all these community-based women, has any of them ever taken a stand against domestic violence?
That is where poverty comes into play. Because they are not learned, they are poor, and they have loads of children. We're talking of 6, 7, 8 children. And nobody is going to help them take care of these children. So some of them prefer to, let me stay with the man who is their father to take care of the children. It's only, like one told me, and only when I find in trouble, they beat me. You know, so there is that fear of living. Why is it that women are not living? There is that fear of the unknown, of who will take care of the children, of the devil I know is better than the saint I don't know. So it is better I stay. Even if you won't kill me, make he kill me. You know, so, and the support system is scarce. There is no support system for those low-income people. I like to call them low-income, not poor. For the low-income community women, the support system is not there because their parents are aged. They are from, you know, they're in the village. So how will they go back to the village? They can't go back to the village. So it's better I stick with this man that I know, with the devil that I know, that I have 4, 5, 6, 7 children with, and suffer this pending when the children grow up to be able to defend their mothers. So poverty is
a major thing.
Major factor. Poverty, major factor. Poverty is a major factor. And lack of education.
Now, in terms of reporting about abuse, are there centers aside from the law enforcement agencies where one can walk in and report abuse?
Yeah, sure. The NGOs, there are loads of NGOs all over Nigeria, and there is a Mirabel Center in Lagos. There are loads of places to go, but the issue is the awareness. The awareness is not out there for people to know. Especially, I am more concerned with the people in the community who don't have the gadgets.
Because you work with them.
Exactly, because these are the people I work with. These are the people, they are, like they say, they are the poorest of the poor. These are the people I'm more concerned about, not the people. Yeah, everybody is important, but these people, nobody is speaking for them. They don't know. So I encourage NGOs, centers to move into the community, because that is where the people you're looking for are. You are the one to go look for them. Tell them what you do, that you can render service to them. Then they can come to you when needed. And remember, again, these people, they are basically looking for money to eat. So coming out is usually a problem. So we take things to them. We go to them. So I will encourage, if centers can be set up in communities, though we encourage them to report to the chief palaces. When we report to the palaces, then the chief palaces can now invite us to come for if there is any case, because it is not even proper to go into any community without consulting with the chiefs. That's it.
Now, the like you mentioned, the chief palaces, won't it look like you're supporting them?
Yes, we have to support the victim. The victim must be supported from point A to point Z. Totally. Hospitals, going to hospitals if case of sexual abuse or even domestic violence, we need to establish, So supporting them, yes, but we need to follow an established way of reporting, because you cannot go into somebody's house. You cannot just go into somebody's house without letting the person know. So we go through the chiefs. And also what we've started doing is to enlighten the chiefs. We come in and introduce ourselves that this is what we do. So in fact, sometimes the chiefs call us.
Wow.
Yes, they do, because they have loads of these cases every day. So they're even looking for people to push these cases to. And now again, we have started what we call community policing. So even if we are not there, there is community policing. Once these cases are reported to the chiefs call in the police, community police, and they can take it up from there before involving us, come and now take it up to NAPTIP and other places.
Now, out of curiosity, has there ever been a conclusive case in the community?
Yes, especially cases of sexual abuse. Where we are still having a bit of issue is domestic violence, because you see a woman comes and cries that there has been a domestic violence, and you go in to help. Halfway you start hearing, my husband, he don't do, leave him, I don't forgive him, and people don't come beg me. But if it's sexual abuse, children's sexual abuse, yes, there has been conclusive cases with that.
So there's actually a rise in sexual abuse amongst children?
Of course. Definitely. In the community, that is where it is. In fact, it is 100% in the community. Because of the way that communal living, because of the way they live, you can find 7 people in one room, face me, I face you, 15 people inside one yard. So yes. Yes.
It's actually terrible, because these things, how do they affect the psychic of those children?
In fact, if there are cases of incest,
wow.
We have cases. There are cases of incest where it's been reported a father defiled his 13-year-old child from 10 years, from while the girl was 10 years. So this is happening for 3 years. And you also find out that their wives shield them, trying to stop justice. And you keep hearing, "Is my husband, if you take him, who will take care of us?" So the cases are there, and definitely it affects the children. There's something called trauma. So the children go through that trauma. There is protection for everybody, not just women. And we also encourage the men to come out and report, because the statistics is so low. Men go through abuse, and it affects anybody. The brain does not know whether you're a man or a woman. What the brain knows is that an abuse has been occurred, and it rewires the brain. Post-trauma syndrome is real. It happens to everybody. Please come out and report. Nobody should suffer abuse. Thank you.
We sincerely appreciate you for taking out time to come to be with us today. This brings us to the end of the studio segment. Our guest has been Nkechi Ebenebe, founder of Nech Hope Initiative, a non-governmental organization reaching out to women and children in abusive relationships and helping them find their voice. Finally, do not suffer in silence. Reporting any form of abuse can be very emotional and difficult. Brace up and do so. You might be saving a life. Well, that's how far we can go on the program. Until next week, bye-bye.